Are we about to go berserk in the Synchro and Link Festival with arguably one of the best decks in the format? Find out in today's episode. Hello folks, I'm the Ghost with Knife and welcome back to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and as you saw in the intro, today we are tackling the Swordsoul Tenyi deck in the Synchro and Link Festival. Now I know some of you are saying, didn't you really recently do a video on this Swordsoul Tenyi deck? One very similar, yes, I did, and I was gonna kind of give it a rest, but during my session with Unchained during this exact same festival, I wasn't really having that much success, and I saw a lot of people playing this deck. So much so that it kind of made me feel like everybody was hyping up this deck to maybe be the meta option for the festival, and I was just like, it can't be that good, can it? So I took the deck that we did in the more recent Swordsoul Tenyi video, and I basically copy and pasted it for the festival. I had to take out Link-ychro and Pot of Extravagance. Link-ychro. I had to take out Droll and Lockbird for Link-ychro, and I took out the Pot of Extravagance for this trap that doesn't ever get any value in the video, but it's fine, who cares? And then I just went ahead and tried out Swordsoul Tenyi to see if it was really worth the amount of usage that it was getting for the festival. So the deck is virtually the exact same as it was in that video, so there's no reason to go back over it too much. If you'd like to pause and see the cards on the left for yourself and try to add them to your deck, feel free to while I go ahead and finish this, but otherwise, yeah, there's nothing really new. The Swordsoul Tenyi deck is a tried and true deck. It's a very powerful deck that can churn through resources and offer you up a ton of negates, and I highly recommend playing this before, during, and after the event. Swordsoul Tenyi is an incredibly powerful deck, or at least I hope so. Maybe the festival will reveal that this deck is a little bit more overrated than people were making it out to be. Maybe this deck will reveal that Tenyi and Swordsoul can go absolutely berserk in an environment like this. I know we're going back to the intro for this one. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into those games. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Enjoy those games. Alright, here we are going into one of our Swordsoul Tenyi games. We've got a pretty banger hand here, and we're just going to do some normal Swordsoul stuff here. Go into Mo Yi, and then use Mo Yi with the other worm in hand to go into Chi-Shao, to go into hopefully Baron is what I should be doing since I'm going first. We're going to go ahead and skip a little bit here. Mo Yi and Chi-Shao are going to proc. We're going to go get Long Yang. And here we're going to go ahead and summon Long Yang. And here I'm going to make a very interesting play. I'm going to go into Ashuna. Now, why did I put this Vishuda in attack mode? I'll never know. But I apparently decided to do that. Again, this is the same time that I was recording all the other Duel Festival stuff. I was pretty sick. I was a little bit out of it. And this was just a very weird misplay. And for some reason, I am now locked into worms because of Ashuna, which completely interrupts my ability to go in Baron, which is what I should have done. So instead of just doing the typical Chi-Shao into Baron line like I should have done, I have now summoned a Vishuda. I cannot summon Baron, so instead I'm going to do the other thing that I can do in this situation, which is go into Chang Ying, the boss monster, which is about the best thing I can do here. We're going to go ahead and drop a Called by the Grave to hopefully deal with whatever our opponent throws at us. We've got a Dimbiru just in case my opponent is going to go with Dragoonity Whirlwind. We're playing Dragoonities. We're going to go ahead and Ash Blossom that nonsense out of here. I do not want my opponent getting their line started, and I do have a negate on board and also the ability to keep banishing their stuff, so we're going to go ahead and use Chi-Shao to negate their effects. They cannot try to open up and extend their plays even more. But Chang Ying is going to go ahead and banish the Ravine, because the Dragon Ravine is one of the most important cards for them to go into the Mista Lane anyways, because like always, Dragoonity just finds a way, even 12 years later when I thought they were not going to be any better anytime soon. So they're going to go ahead and summon their tuner monster. I'm going to go ahead and destroy my Vishuda, which I just straight up should not have played in defense mode. I should have just gone into Baron, but it's okay because we're here now. So go ahead and use Chang Ying to negate the effect. We're going to go ahead and use Chang Ying to banish that monster, and from this position, my opponent can't really do anything. We're going to go ahead and go into Taya, which is going to go ahead and get us our token. We're just going to put their card back into their hand, and then we're just going to go ahead and go into the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. Nice, quick Swordsoul Tenyi game where we just absolutely clobber our opponent and all of their dreams of their Dragoonity nonsense. Thank you and good night. This deck is ridiculous in this festival. Alright, getting into another Swordsoul Tenyi game here for the festival. One of the best decks in the entire festival. Gonna go ahead and play our opponent, who is playing Karibos, which is something I would have never expected to see in this festival. But yeah, my opponent is playing full-on Karibos. They've got Kariborn, Link-ychro, and a Curry Babylon, which is like the threat card of this deck. But I am playing Swordsoul Tenyi, and as much as I would love to embrace the memes and all the Karibos, we're just going to go ahead and Game and Steal their big monster in case they want to do some nonsense. Go ahead and play Ecclesia. Try to bait out something. They go ahead and use a Called by the Grave to try to stop our plays. Unfortunately for my opponent, even though this is a very powerful play here, it's just not enough. We've got Moye in hand, and with Moye comes the rest of the Swordsoul nonsense. So we're gonna go ahead and just summon our Moye. Gonna go ahead into Chi Shao. Now we can go ahead and keep extending our plays and go into a Baron. And from Baron, our opponent can't really do anything, especially because we have a Link-ychro, and if we needed a Nibiru, but it doesn't matter because at this point, my opponent has realized this game is over. Thankfully, we got that nice and quick. It is sad to beat a really cool deck like Karibos. I was kind of hoping to lose this game, but hey, when you have one of the best decks in the format, you have one of the best decks in the format. Alright, getting into the next game with Swordsoul Tenyi. This hand is pretty garbage. My opponent is going first, so Gameciel's not that bad into this. They're going to go ahead and use Painful Decision to go ahead and try to set up their Pendulum Scales with Ignites, which I'm not quite sure what this deck does, but I'm going to go ahead and just let them make their plays, go ahead and summon their Sublimation Knight, and then I'm just going to Imperm it. And hopefully that will stop their combo from extending even further. I've never played against Ignites, so hopefully this was a decent play. In this moment in time, it just kind of stopped them from going any further, which was the plan. And now we're going to go ahead and use Swordsoul Emergence, and since I already have another worm in hand, we're going to go Moye, and we're just going to go ahead and do typical Swordsoul nonsense. We know what's coming. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of fast forwarding. Chi Shao into Long Yuan, into, I believe I go into Baron this game. I did not fast forward, I apologize. But my opponent does try to Ash Blossom Chi Shao, but I did Chain Block with Moye, so we don't really need to worry about that. Long Yuan's going to go ahead and grab our other worm out of hand. Go ahead and summon with Long Yuan. Into the Cheng Ying. I believe I'm going to try to go for a game here, but I am a little bit off because I forgot I can't really use the Banish effect. I should have gone on a Baron here. I did make a play mistake with this, but I was like, you know what, whatever, it doesn't matter. I've got a Banish. When I negate, I got another Banish, and then my opponent Raigekis me, and from this position, I'm like, alright, well, I want to get something out of this, so I'm going to go ahead and tribute the Cheng Ying to grab a Taya, and Taya is going to give me the ability to extend past this turn, so that if my opponent really wants to, they can try to do some nonsense. We're going to go ahead, and I believe I kind of BM here because I use Ecclesia, and from this point I'm like, okay, I have full combo, so I'm going to go ahead and get Moye, and my opponent just gives up from here. So this is not the game that I BM, but it's completely okay. My opponent saw the writing on the wall, saw that they were going to get more Swordsoul monsters they couldn't really deal with, and they scoop it. Alright, we're getting into another game with Swordsoul Tenyi. My opponent has a very hungry burger on their side of the board, and I'm going to go ahead and do some Swordsoul nonsense, or I was going to until I got impermed. Gonna go ahead and shut down my Swordsoul combo. There's not much I can do from here other than set an imperm and hope things work out. Maybe the Link-ychro and the Ash Blossom will do something, you never know. My opponent is playing recipes though, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to stop the recipe from happening. Gonna go ahead and Ash Blossom. My opponent is going to go ahead and still get their nonsense off. Yeah, I thought once you Ash Blossomed this, it was done for good, but apparently Ash Blossom does not work against field spells, so I did just kind of waste it. But it's okay. because we did kind of slow them down. As long as I can negate this thing's abilities, like I just did, I shouldn't have to worry about anything else. Our opponent is not going to get to extend any further. We are going to go ahead and beat down my Mo-Yi, which I can't really do anything about. They're going to go ahead and put some cards back into their deck. I should have DD-crowed here, but I was like, nah, I don't really need to. But from this position, I'm like, you know what I can do, though? I can go into a Shuna, and then I can go into the Monk of the Tenyi, and we can try to make some plays happen there. It's going to go ahead and put it, you're going to go ahead and use a Shuna's effect to play Vashuda, and from here I'm like, wait. Vashuda is a level 7 monster. Ash Blossom is a level 3 tuner. Why don't I just go ahead and play them and go straight into Baron? And my opponent sees that I'm going into Baron and has just decided to scoop it up and say, you know what, you got me this time. Alright, getting into our next game here with Swordsoul Tenyis. We've got a very interesting hand here. This is going to be a bit of a longer game, so we're going to go ahead, use the emergence to get the Mo-Yi, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and play Mo-Yi, and I'm not gonna lie, I made a bit of a play mistake. I forgot you needed a worm or a sword soul monster to activate her effect, and I was like, oh yeah, I can just go ahead and go into the combo. But yeah, this is what not having your combo looks like in Sword Soul. You have some really weird play lines you have to go through. But anyways, it's fine. We're gonna go ahead and use our trap and our spell to try to outgrind our opponent here. Our opponent is playing Megaliths of all things. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to DD-Crow that Bethor just to go ahead and get that nonsense out of here so they can't bring it back with Fool, so I can kind of try to interrupt their combo. And they're going to use OPL to grab OPL from their hand to the board, which is a bit of a weird thing. And then they're going to grab Phalig, which makes me believe my opponent doesn't really know the combo that well. I don't know why they didn't just go into Hagith and continue the combo line, but they do go into Phalig here, and then they just kind of end their turn. So from here, I'm like, alright, I'm going to go ahead and Heavenly Dragon Circle. I'm going to go ahead and get the Taya, because from Taya, I can go ahead and make Chi Xiao, and Chi Xiao can negate whatever combo they want to do here. We draw into an Ash Blossom. More control pieces is not the best thing. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Emergence to go ahead and summon the token, and then we're going to go ahead and right into our actually Draco Berserker here. The main reason I did this is because I just don't really have a lot of action going on in my hand. I've got an Ash Blossom and a triple attack, so I'm like, okay, what I'm just going to do, I'm going to go ahead and activate this effect. I don't remember exactly what that effect, oh, it was supposed to increase a level. But Draco Berserker, the fun fact about him is that if I can just beat my opponent's monsters with him, I can eventually root through their defenses so they can't ritual summon anymore, and just have such a big Draco Berserker they can't deal with it. My opponent does infinite imperm, getting rid of some of the attack, and then they're going to try to use an incantation card, and I'm just going to go ahead and Ash Blossom that nonsense. Out of here. No thank you, Hachi, I do not want to deal with that today. It's now my turn going into it. We do get the Ecclesia, and Ecclesia is going to let us do some very funny nonsense. Ecclesia is going to summon Taya, we're going to use Taya to get rid of the other Taya, and now we're going to properly go into Chi Xiao, I believe is what I did here, because now I just have a bunch of negates. I have a Fist of the Unrivaled, which I can't really do anything with. I'm just kind of hoping they pop it so I can get some nonsense off with my hand. Going to go ahead and send a Shuda to the graveyard. Gonna go ahead and get a Long Yuan, which I can't really do anything with, but I can't just go ahead and beat my opponent for 5,800 damage. And I do have a single negate to stop whatever my opponent's doing at this time. I've kind of run out of gas. My opponent has a pretty nifty hand. They're gonna go ahead and use their incantation to go into an Auk, which is a very interesting choice in my opinion. I don't ever really see this card in Megalith. It's nice to actually see somebody else playing it. I don't know if they're like trying the deck or what's going on, but typically you don't use this because all it really does is potentially draw you a card and then discard you a card. It helps you dig a little bit, but I'd just rather have other Megalith cards to give me combo pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and just use Chi Xiao's effect to negate the Ox so they can't dig any more deeper. Go ahead and use the Long Yuan that I just, we're going to use Long Yuan to discard the Ashuda that I just drew, and then we're just going to go into Baron. We're going to go into Cheng Ying, because I'm a psychopath like that. Going to make them take a bunch of damage. Going to go ahead and use Chi Xiao's effect alongside Long Yuan's effect, negate their effect by banishing a card. When I banish a card, it gets to banish 2 of their cards, so from here, I can just swing directly and end the game. A nice clean win for Tenyis. We're not getting Megalith combo today. Okay, so we're going into the next game with Swordsoul Tenyis. We don't have that many more games left for you guys in this video. I know we've had quite a few, and they've all been kind of fast. I just wanted to try out the deck and show you just how dominant Swordsoul Tenyi can be in this kind of event. We're going to go ahead and go into the Monk of the Tenyi, because that's all I can really do with my hand. I'm going to go ahead and get a Vishuda, and we're going to set 2 Heavenly Dragon Circles, because that's all I can really do here, which kind of sucks. My opponent is going to go into their Infernoble Knight combo, and from this point I'm like, oh boy, there's not much I can really do here. They're going to equip their Captain Charles. I'm going to Heavenly Dragon Circle the Monk out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and go into an Ashuna. The main reason I do this is because I plan on using either Ashuna or Vishuda to do some control nonsense. I'm going to go ahead and try to dig for a Tenyi here. We get a triple tactics talent, and I'm like, great. So I'm going to go ahead and use Vishuda in the graveyard. We're going to summon the Monk of the Tenyi, use Vishuda to put Charles back into the extra deck. Get out of here with that nonsense. We're going to go ahead and banish our Dragon Circle to try to get our level 1 monster, Adhara, so that way we can try to start off a Chi Xiao line. Now, I can't really do anything with Chi Xiao here, but it doesn't matter because they're going to imperm it anyways. My goal is to dig for Taya and then use that to maintain tempo for next turn, but that's just not how the cookie crumbles. So instead, we're just going to beat the crap out of my opponent with a Monk of the Tenyi and a Chi Xiao, and then we're going to have a little bit of a weird line here. I'm going to use one monster's effect to summon the Vishuda from the graveyard, which puts the Ashuna back in my hand in case I draw Long Yuan or Mo-Yi. We're going to go ahead and link summon into the Shaman of the Tenyi. The main reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to get to the other bigger Tenyi monster that can take a hit. So we're going to bring back the Monk, discarding the useless Lightning Storm. And then we're going to go into our Berserker of the Tenyi, which normally isn't that impressive, but we just really need a bigger body on board so they can't just so easily beat over this. My opponent is going to go into the reinforcements of the army. They're going to activate their Infernoble Knight, and here I try to stop them by using Chi Xiao. This is just inexperience against an Infernoble player. So I use my negate here, and it doesn't matter. They've got something, and they're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and try to Link-ychro here to stop their plays, because I'm like, yeah, at least I can stop them from getting the level 4 monster, which is how they get their other monster. And then they summon something from their hand, and I'm like, oh, and now they can just get back that level 4 monster I banished. Again, it's just a lot of inexperience against this deck in particular. So we make a few mistakes, and oh my bad, it's not Charles, that's Ronald. That's Roland, my bad. So they're gonna go ahead and go into Captain Roland, get their equip back, special summon Sublimation Knight, and I am not looking too great here. My opponent is going to synchro all 3 monsters into Charles. Oh boy, and from Charles, they're gonna go into the much cooler Charles. First, they're gonna destroy my circle, which kind of sucks. I didn't see that he was targeting the circle, otherwise I would have used it, but it's fine. But now they're going to go into Emperor Charles the Great, and my life is painful, because now they just have a better Charles that I can't really deal with. And weirdly enough, I thought my opponent was going to kill my Berserker, because he is a non-effect monster that is Tenyi, that allows me to activate my other Tenyi effects from the graveyard. But my opponent, as you can see here, went for Chi Xiao. I guess they just don't want me negating stuff. My opponent is going to go ahead and do some nonsense and equipped 4 cards to the better Charles, and he now has 4,000 attack. And I'm thinking there's no way anything I'm going to do here is going to get through, because he has a few negates. I'm going to go ahead and use Ashuna's effect to summon Ashuna. I'm going to grab the trap. I'm not quite sure why I grabbed the trap here, but then afterwards I go for Vishuda. And I thought they were going to negate it, because I thought they could with Charles, but either they couldn't or they just didn't. So I put better Charles back into their deck, and from here, this game is over. The monk at the Tenyi kills their monster, and then my opponent scoops before Vishuda and my Berserker can finish them off. Again, I don't know if they just didn't think about attacking the Berserker or what exactly happened, but because of that, it allowed me to use my Tenyi engine to its full advantage and finish off my opponent, which is fantastic. Alright, we are starting off our next game here with Swordsoul Tenyis. We have a really awkward hand. It's a great Tenyi hand, but a pretty bad Swordsoul hand, and my opponent is trying out the agents for the event. They're going to go ahead and use their agents to link summon another agent monster that I didn't know existed, Protector of the Agents, Moon. They're going to try to activate Moon, and I'm just going to go ahead and imperm it because they've got one card in hand. What are they going to do from this position? So we're going to go ahead and imperm this nonsense and just stop them from extending their combo. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make more play mistakes, because why not? I'm going to go ahead and banish the Agent of Life, because I thought you needed to banish it to get the Sanctuary effect, or the Surge effect. I, again, misread this card, and I just gave them a free Sanctuary of the Sky. I could have grabbed literally any other agent and been fine. I was just like, oh, awesome. So glad that I did that. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and use Vishuda's effect. And go ahead and start our Tenyi lines of play, which is about the best things I can do here. And go ahead and use Vishuda to go ahead and shuffle back the agent. I'm going to go ahead and use my Heavenly Dragon Circle, getting rid of my monk. And hey, look, it's Moyi! We all know where this goes. Or at least we would, if I could read my own dang cards, because Heavenly Dragon Circle negates Moyi's effect, which I just completely forgot. Again, I'm learning the deck still. I haven't had that much experience with it, but it's okay. I'm in a pretty commanding position here. My opponent just sets one, sets two, and passes, but I do just rip a Longyuan, which is incredible. You go ahead and discard the Vishuda, summon the token, use Vishuda to get rid of the trap. It's an imperm, which allows them to negate Longyuan, which doesn't do anything after my synchro, because he's already gotten his effect off, but hey, it's just what they can do in this situation. And from here, I'm just like, alright, what I need to do is I need to go into Chi Xiao so I can maintain my negates and maintain my tempo, using Mo Yi and Chi Xiao to try and dig into my deck to find answers. Mo Yi grabs me an Emergence, and from here I'm going to go ahead and grab the Blackout. I'm going to use the Swordsoul Emergence to grab Taya, because I completely forgot I did a normal summon, and then I'm going to normal summon Taya, and from here, we're going to go ahead and go into Baron de Fleur. And now I have negates out the wazoo, and thanks to the Blackout, I have a way to destroy my opponent's stuff while I'm at it. This game is over though. We're not even going to get to that part. We're just going to get to the part where Chi Xiao and Baron completely eviscerate the agent's deck. Okay, for our last game, it's going to be something a little bit fancier. My opponent isn't going to have too much going on, but the ending of this is going to surprise you. I'm going to try to do something that you don't typically do with a Swordsoul deck to win. It's going to be a little drawn out and unnecessary, but hey, I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and use Mo Yi, and hey, look, my opponent's going to use Emergency Teleport. And I'm like, what the hell are they going to summon with this? They're going to summon a Ghost Ogre. And hey, you know what you should do when your opponent puts a card on the board? You should read it. Because as you can clearly see, whenever an effect on the field, whenever a monster on the field activates its effect, or a spell or trap that is already face up on the field activates its effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and just destroy that card. Yeah, I know, it's a pretty good effect. And if I read it, I would have known about that effect before the series of unfortunate events that's about to happen happens. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some normal Swordsoul nonsense. Hey, look, it's Chi Xiao. You've seen this guy a million times in this video. You're gonna go ahead and use Mo Yi and Chi Xiao to get our resource engine going. Hey, look, an Ash Blossom. That's pretty good. And a Swordsoul Emergence, because I already have a Longyuan in hand. I'm gonna go ahead and discard the Tenyi Spirit. Gonna go ahead and get the Longyuan. Use Longyuan to go ahead and summon a Baron de Fleur. Gonna go ahead and activate Longyuan's effect, rip their life points down a little bit, and then I'm gonna make a gigantic play mistake and try to use Baron to destroy Ghost Ogre, which I thought only worked from the hand. But as you guys read earlier with me, it works from hand or field. So they're gonna go ahead and try to destroy my Baron because I misread their card and tried to destroy their Ghost Ogre with my Baron. This isn't even like a killing blow. I don't know why I did this. I just thought, oh yeah, this is a good idea. So now, in order to save my Baron, I have to use its negate. All because I just didn't read a card. But it's okay. Even though we've made some play mistakes, there is still a way to come back from this. I've grabbed the Taya because Taya can let me do some nonsense next turn. Go ahead and take my opponent down. And again, I just didn't realize how many how many life points my opponent had and how much attack I actually had on the board. And I was like, oh, so I didn't kill. And then they Harpies my circle, and I'm like, that's fine, I guess they're gonna unexpected die. I'm gonna Ash Blossom, because I don't know what the hell you're trying to unexpected die, but I do not want to see it. And then from here, my opponent just plays a Change of Heart, and then tries to use Baron to destroy Chi-Xiao, forcing me to have to use Chi-Xiao to negate Baron, just so he doesn't get a free 3,000 damage on me. And my opponent then plays Lead the World Chalice. My opponent is playing a World Chalice deck, and I just lose Chi-Xiao, and I'm gonna go ahead and take 300 damage here, which I know some people are like, that's kind of like mid, why didn't you just not negate it? Because I'd rather take 300 damage than 3,000 damage. And then my opponent summons a frickin' Masquerena, and I'm like, oh, great, there's nothing I can do about that. They're gonna go ahead and discard some stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and banish the Lee because they're trying to add it back to their hand. Use Link-ychro to make sure they can't get their resource back. They have only one card left and a Masquerena, which doesn't give them a lot to do, but guess what? It doesn't matter because I'm gonna Gamma-Seal Masquerena before they can do anything else. And this is where we get fancy and try to style on my opponent. From here, all they really have to do is get rid of Gamma-Seal and then swing with this Monk at the Tenyi for exactly 1,000. But that's not exactly what our game plan is here. We're going to use our other Tenyi spirits to go ahead and put this Ashuna back in hand, which there's a reason for that. We're going to normal summon Taya to summon our Swordsoul monster. We're going to use our circle to grab the Vishuddha from hand. I'm going to use the Vishuddha from hand to bounce Gamma-Seal. And yes, I could swing with the Monk of the Tenyi here and go for game, but that's for babies. You see, killing somebody with combat damage is something a million players have done. Have you ever tried to kill your opponent with long yuan damage? Because that's what I'm trying to do right now. They've got only 1,000 life points. They've got nothing stopping this. I'm going to use Chi-Xiao, summon long yuan, discard the Tenyi spirit, and before I can kill them with long yuan, they surrender. So I didn't get to kill them with long yuan, but for all intents and purposes, I killed my opponent with long yuan damage, and that's pretty rad. So, you know, let's go to the wrap-up. Did Swordsoul Tenyi shine as brightly as we hoped it would in the Synchro and Link Festival, or maybe the hype was a bit overdone for Swordsoul Tenyi? Who am I kidding? The deck did incredible. The deck is an absolute monster. It 100% lived up to the hype and more. And I don't really know what else there is to say about this deck that hasn't been said before. It is an incredibly powerful deck that turns out some incredibly strong negates. Chi-Xiao with nothing to be messed with, and neither is the ability to play Chi-Xiao and Baron, which gives you two incredibly powerful negates, thanks to the Swordsoul side of the deck. But what really surprised me in the event was actually the Tenyi side of the deck. In the past, I always kind of thought that if you didn't go into the Swordsoul part of the deck, you couldn't really play it because you couldn't go into Baron, and your opponent just kind of ran over you. But in a lot of these games, the Tenyi spirits put in double time the amount of work that they normally would have. Just Vishuddha getting rid of cards exactly when we needed to, Ashuna giving us more resources to dip into, and at one point we went into the Berserker of the Tenyi as a valid option, which wound up winning us a game. The deck just has so much it can do. The deck is a monster. There's nothing else that I can say about Swordsoul Tenyi that hasn't been said before. If you want to play it during the event, if you want to play it after the event, feel free to do so. You can go ahead and get this deck, and you will always find a way to play this deck. It is incredibly consistent and a tremendous variety of metas. Swordsoul Tenyi has been, and in my opinion, always will be, a monster of a deck that is always worth investing into. So thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I will see you folks in the next one.